Your chlorine reads 3. 3 is fine, and 3 is exactly what the label on the bucket tells you to hold, and you are holding it, and your water is still green. Here's the part nobody's told you. At the pH most green pools are sitting at, about a fifth of that 3 is doing anything at all. A fifth. The rest of it is sitting in that water, doing absolutely nothing for you, and adding more will not change that. And somewhere in the last 3 weeks, you decided you're bad at this. You are not. I can tell you that after 12 years of walking into back gardens exactly like yours, you have been dosing a pool that could not use what you were giving it. Nobody ever told you water could do that to you. I'm Oliver. I'm not a pool shop bloke. I'm a plant operator, which is different. And the difference is the whole reason this is worth 12 minutes of your time. 22 years running plant and water quality on Gold Coast resort pools in Queensland. 12 years on a Florida route since. Queensland summer will teach you more about algae than any book will. So here's how this goes. First, why chlorine quits, and it isn't the chlorine. Then the $12 bag that fixes it, and it's in the baking aisle, not the pool aisle. Then how to get it in there without wrecking your filter, because that's where most people come unstuck. Then the 4 questions I get every single week. And at the end, there's the one thing that makes every step in this video useless if you've got it wrong. That one comes at the end. One ask, then back to it. If this is useful, subscribe. That's the whole ask. You've been fighting 2 things and treating them as one. Thing 1 is how much chlorine is in your water. That's the number on your strip, and that's the number everybody talks about. Thing 2 is how much of that chlorine can actually kill something. Nobody talks about that one. There's no strip for it, and there's nothing on a shelf with it written on the front. So, the water goes green. You check thing 1 says you are fine, and you add more, and more. You're pouring good chlorine into water that can't use it. I've watched a bloke put $150 of shock through a pool in a fortnight and get nothing back. Not a bit of it. The chlorine was never the problem. Right. Let me tell you why. Because I had this backwards myself. For the first 2 years I was on plant, and it cost my employer a fortune in chemical. Chlorine in water is not one substance. It splits into 2 forms, and they are not equal. One of them, hypochlorous acid, does the killing. The other one is close to useless. Same strip reading, completely different water. What decides the split is pH. Nothing else decides it. At a pH of 7.0, about 3/4 of your chlorine is sitting in the useful form. At 7.5, it's roughly half. At 8.0, you're down around a fifth. Same 3 parts per million on the strip, a fifth of the work. So a green pool with a healthy chlorine reading is nearly always a pool sitting at a high pH. Now, why won't your pH stay put? That's alkalinity, and this is the bit that never gets explained properly. Total alkalinity isn't a chemical you add, it's a measure of how hard your water resists having its pH shoved around. It's a shock absorber. Rain hits your pool, that's acid. Leaves rot in it, acid. Swimmers, acid. Every one of those wants to move your pH, and alkalinity is the thing standing in the way. Low alkalinity means no shock absorber, so your pH goes wherever the weather decides to send it, and in a Florida summer, the weather sends it up. So you're chasing pH every 3 days with a bottle, and it never holds, and the whole time your chlorine's sitting there at a 5th power, wondering why you're cross with it. Ray Duffy taught me the order, and I've never had cause to change it. Alkalinity first, then pH if it even still needs touching, and then chlorine last. Do it in that order and most of it fixes itself. Do it backwards and you'll be at it all summer. Step 1, and it is the one nobody skips. Test your alkalinity and use a strip to do it. A tub of 50 strips is about $12 at any hardware store. Dip it, hold it level, read it against the bottle at the time the bottle tells you. Alkalinity is usually the second or third pad down. You want to land between 80 and 120 parts per million. Under 80 is where the trouble starts. Under 60, your pH is not really yours anymore. It belongs to whatever the sky is doing that week. Don't test straight after rain, and don't test at the shallow end steps. Elbow deep, away from the returns, middle of the pool if you can reach it. Step 2 is your volume, and you need it before anything else, because every dose from here down depends on knowing it. Length times width times average depth times 7.5 gives you gallons for a rectangular pool. Round pool, radius times 3.14 times average depth times 7.5. Write that number down somewhere, you'll find it again. You'll use it every season for as long as you own the place. Step 3 is the dose, and I promise you the arithmetic is smaller than you are expecting. 1.5 pounds of sodium bicarbonate per 10,000 gallons raises your alkalinity about 10 parts per million. That's the whole arithmetic. So a 20,000 gallon pool sitting at 40, going up to 90, that's 50 parts per million, that's 15 pounds. That is one bag, and I want to say plainly that 15 pounds is an ordinary number for a bad opening, so do not flinch when yours comes out large. Step 4. Buy the right bag, and this is where the money is. You want sodium bicarbonate, plain baking soda. A 13.5 pound bag runs about $12 in the baking aisle of any big grocery store. Now walk to the pool aisle in the same shop and pick up the alkalinity increaser. Turn it over. Read the active ingredient off the back. It's sodium bicarbonate. It's often the same brand. And it's 2 to 4 times the price per pound. Ray had a rule about that. Never buy a chemical by the name on the front of the container. Step 5 is where I lose people, so stay with me. You dissolve it first, in a bucket, before any of it goes near the water. 5-gallon bucket, warm water, 2 pounds at a time. Stir until the water goes clear again. It will cloud up, and then it will come good, and if it stays gritty on you, then the answer is more water rather than more stirring. Do not tip dry powder into your skimmer. It packs into the filter, and you'll spend Sunday taking it apart. And don't tip the dry bag straight in the pool either, because half of it lands on the floor of the deep end and sits there doing nothing while you wonder why the reading hasn't moved. Step 6 is putting it in, and the pump runs the entire time you are doing it. Walk the perimeter and pour slowly, spread it out, deep end gets the most. Pump on the whole time. If you've got a pool brush, give the floor a push about 10 minutes later. Step 7 is the one I have watched more people fail than all the others put together. Leave it alone. You need a full turnover, which is every gallon in that pool through the filter once. On most residential systems, that's 8 to 12 hours. Run the pump that long before you test again. This is the step everybody fails. They test after an hour, see nothing much, and put more in. Next morning they're well over, and they're buying acid to come back down. You've paid twice, and you're further from where you started than when you began. Step 8. Retest. If you're still short, go again. Same way. I want big corrections done in stages, and never in one go. Ray's line on that was that you can always add more, and you can never take any out. And that holds for every chemical you'll ever put in that water. Step 9, and only now, is when I want you looking at your pH. 9 times in 10, once alkalinity is sitting where it should, the pH has come along with it, and you don't need to do a thing. That's the buffer doing its job. If it's still high, that's a separate fix with a different chemical, and I'd rather you left it a week and watched it than jumped on it. Step 10 is the chlorine, and I have made you wait 9 steps for it on purpose. Same chlorine you were already using, same dose. It'll behave like a different product, because now most of it is the form that works. So why has nobody told you any of this? I get asked that more than anything, and the answer is duller than people want. Have a look at what is actually for sale on that shelf. Alkalinity increaser, pH up, pH down, clarifier, algicide, shock, a bottle with crystal clear written on it in blue, 6 products, margin on all 6. And a $12 bag of baking soda over in the aisle where they keep the flour, doing the job most of those bottles are pretending to do, and nobody makes a cent extra when you buy it. There was no meeting. There's just no sales force for a 12-pound bag. The fella behind the counter at your pool shop isn't lying to you. He is telling you what is in front of him. What is in front of him is what his supplier sent, and his supplier does not stock a thing he cannot put a margin on. Nobody designed that. It's just what a shelf is. Right. 4 questions every week. First one, and it's the most common by a mile. What if my alkalinity is too high? Mine's at 240. Then everything I've just said runs backwards, and baking soda is the last thing you want near it. High alkalinity is a hard water problem and a rainwater problem. It pins your pH high, the same way low alkalinity lets it wander. You bring it down with acid, in stages, and then you aerate. Point your returns up, get the fountain going, run the spa jets. Acid drops pH and alkalinity together. Aeration brings the pH back up, without bringing the alkalinity with it. Then repeat. It's slow and it's dull, and there's no shortcut in it. Second, will this get rid of my algae? On its own it will not, and I want to be very clear with you about that before somebody quotes me wrong. What it does is let the chlorine you add afterwards actually kill it. You still brush, you still shock, you still run the filter. This is the difference between doing all that and it working, and doing all that and watching it come back Thursday. Third, someone's told you strips are rubbish and any professional using them should be sacked. I use a photometer, and you can see it sitting on the bench in front of me. I test 30 pools a week, and I need my kit to give me the same answer twice on the same water. You need one reading, once, to find out whether you're under 80. A strip does that. Anyone telling you that you need my kit to answer that question is selling you something. Fourth one, and I get this from about 1/3 of the people I service down here. Salt pool. Does any of this apply? Same chemistry the whole way through. A salt cell is a chlorine generator, and that's all it is. It makes the same chlorine, and that chlorine splits the same way at the same pH. Salt pools drift high on pH more than most, so if anything this matters to you more, not less. Now I owe you 3 honest things before you go anywhere near a shop. 1. Baking soda is not a sanitizer. It will not kill anything at all. Not algae, not bacteria, not one single thing living in your water. Somebody asked me last month whether they could use it instead of shock. No, never. It does one job, and that job is holding your pH still. 2. If you go and test, and your alkalinity is already sitting at 90, this video has done nothing for you. Not a thing. Your problem is somewhere else entirely, and you have spent 12 minutes on the wrong one. I would rather tell you that than sell you a bag. And the third one is the thing I told you I was holding, so here it is. Stabilizer. Cyanuric acid. It's in every trichlor tablet you've ever dropped in that floating dispenser, and it does not leave. It does not burn off, and it does not evaporate. It simply builds up year after year until somebody notices. A little of it protects your chlorine from the sun. Too much of it locks your chlorine up, so it can't work. And it does that regardless of your pH, regardless of your alkalinity, regardless of everything else in this video. If your stabilizer is over 100, everything I've told you today is correct and useless. And the only way that number comes down is taking water out and putting fresh water in. There's no chemical for it. There's no bottle. Here's the list. It's short. 1. Buy a tub of test strips, $12. 2. Test alkalinity and stabilizer. 2 minutes, elbow deep, middle of the pool. 3. If alkalinity's under 80, work out your gallons and buy 1 bag of plain baking soda. $12 baking aisle. 4. Dissolve it in a bucket, pour it round the edge, run the pump overnight. 5. Test again in the morning before you touch anything else. The whole lot comes in under $30 and you will be finished before lunch. And the last one costs nothing, which is why I put it last. Tell me 2 things below: your county and whether you're on city water or a well. Source water decides whether you will be fighting this upward all summer or downward. I want to know which half of you is which before I write the next one. I want the number, not the story. Next one is stabilizer. How to find out what yours is without paying anybody, how much water you actually have to take out, and the tablet that's been putting it there without ever telling you. Right, go and test it.